They will demand you justify yourself, not to understand you, but to bind you. Every explanation you give is a rope you place in their hands, and they will use it to tighten around your neck. The wise learn that silence is not absence, it is armor. In this world, the moment you reveal your inner workings, you become predictable, and the predictable can be dismantled. Those who seek your reasons are rarely seeking the truth, they are probing for weakness. Explanation is confession. Confession is surrender. If you must speak, speak to mislead. If you must reveal, reveal what costs you nothing. The rest, bury in the vault of your mind, where no hand but your own can reach. They ask, why did you do it? They smile when they ask, but their eyes are already sharpening the blade. Understand this: when you explain, you place yourself in the dock. You stand trial, under their rules, their judgment, their values. And in that moment the power is no longer yours. It is not curiosity they seek, it is control. Every explanation is a thread. One thread becomes two, two becomes a net, and before you realize it, you are tangled, struggling to free yourself from a trap you helped weave. Think of kings brought down not by their enemies' armies, but by their own words. Richard II, stripped of his crown, was not undone by lack of right to rule, but by the perception of weakness his explanations betrayed. The more he spoke of fairness, the more they saw him as soft. The more he justified his rule, the more they doubted he could keep it. You are not obligated to justify yourself to anyone who is not above you in power, and even then, the wise ruler speaks only what serves him. When a prince explains, he kneels. When he kneels, he invites the knife. Ask yourself, why do they want to know? Is it to judge your logic, to understand your heart, or is it to find a crack they can press against until you break? Do not think this is limited to courts and crowns. It is everywhere. In the workplace, among friends, in love. You miss a meeting, someone demands your reason, you tell the truth you were meeting a competitor or handling a personal crisis. Now they know where your loyalties might bend or where to wound you later. You decline an invitation. Someone asks why. You offer your reason. And with it, you hand them a lever they will keep and use when the time suits them. Machiavelli himself wrote, "Men are more concerned with appearing virtuous than with being virtuous." Your explanations feed that theater. You are giving them the script. Far better to say little or nothing. Silence is not absence, it is dominance. When you refuse to explain, they must fill the void themselves. And here lies your advantage. They rarely fill it accurately. Their guesses will reflect their fears, their desires, their own corruption. They will imagine motives darker or grander than reality. And in doing so, they reveal more about themselves than you ever did about you. Caesar crossed the Rubicon without asking the Senate for permission, without explaining his reasons to the public. His enemies were left to wonder, was it ambition, revenge, strategy? By the time they agreed on an answer, he had already seized Rome. When you act, let the action stand alone. The less you say, the less you owe. Your results will speak louder than your justifications ever could. And remember, most explanations are not for their benefit at all. They are to soothe your own discomfort with being misunderstood. That discomfort is weakness. You must kill it. Let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper in hallways and invent their stories. Their whispers do not topple empires. Decisive action does. The day you stop explaining yourself is the day you stop kneeling. It is the day they must come to you for answers, knowing you will give only what serves your design. So the next time they press you, smile, pause, and say only this: you don't need to know. Because once you master that, you will understand the most dangerous truth in power. Sometimes the strongest voice is silence. They demand an explanation. You give none. And instantly, you have inverted the balance of power. Silence is not emptiness. It is an open space. And open spaces are dangerous because the mind rushes to fill them. When you do not explain, they will speculate. And speculation is never neutral. They will imagine reasons. They will imagine motives. They will imagine you. But here is the brilliance. What they imagine tells you more about them than any interrogation could. The fearful will imagine betrayal. The ambitious will imagine strategy. The guilty will imagine revenge. They will take the shape of their own shadow and project it onto you. Machiavelli understood this. He knew that when people do not know your true intentions, they will prepare for the worst, and that fear of a danger they may have invented will restrain them more effectively than force. Consider the great commanders. Hannibal marched his army toward Rome without ever revealing where he would strike. Every city along his path prepared for battle, even those he never touched. The cost of defending against his silence was greater than the cost of any battle he actually fought. Now, apply this to your own life. You cancel a meeting without explanation. They wonder, was it another deal? A better offer? You arrive late without apology. They wonder, was it deliberate? A test? A show of rank? Your absence speaks. Your silence shouts. People cannot tolerate uncertainty. It gnaws at them. It keeps them awake at night, rehearsing conversations that never happened, decoding signals you never sent. And the more they think about you, the more space you occupy in their mind. That is how influence grows, not by constant presence, but by deliberate absence. Do not mistake this for passivity. Silence is not inaction. It is an active weapon. It demands discipline. You must resist the urge to clarify, to comfort, to control their perception directly. Let them stew. Let their own imagination do the work for you. A man will forgive an insult faster than he will forgive the unease of not knowing where he stands with you. There is a saying, nature abhors a vacuum. In the realm of human thought, this is a law of war. If you create a gap, they will rush to fill it, with fear, with hope, with caution. All three make them more predictable and you less vulnerable. Alexander the Great once feigned retreat in battle. He gave no reason. His enemies, believing he had lost courage, broke formation to pursue him. In that moment, he turned his forces and crushed them. The silence of his intention created a false reality in their minds. When you withhold your reasons, you are not merely keeping a secret. You are planting seeds. Some will grow into paranoia, some into respect, some into awe. The beauty is, you do not need to decide which. Their own mind will choose for you. This is the art. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them invent elaborate explanations for your simple act of saying nothing. Because in their scramble to explain you, they reveal their own fears, their own weakness, and their own limits. And once you know those, you no longer have to play by their rules. So the next time you act without explanation and they press you for answers, resist, smile, say, perhaps one day you'll know. Because the most dangerous advantage is not in what you tell them. It's in what they tell themselves. You act. They ask why. You answer. And in that single moment your authority dies. Justification is not a display of strength. It is a confession of doubt. The strong move as they will. The weak explain why they had no choice. Understand this, when you justify yourself, you are not clarifying your intentions. You are seeking permission for them. You are placing your decision on the altar of their judgment. And if they do not approve, your power collapses. A ruler who explains too much stops being a ruler. He becomes a defendant in his own court. Look at King Louis XVI of France. When the revolution began, he had a choice, act decisively or waste time appeasing the mobs. He chose the latter. Every hesitation was wrapped in justification. We must keep the peace. We must be fair. We must listen to the people. But the people were not listening. They were weighing his words and finding him weak. The guillotine took him not because he lacked soldiers, but because he lacked resolve. A commander who explains his orders loses the obedience of his troops. A leader who explains his vision loses the awe of his followers. And a lover who explains his every action loses the mystery that once made him desirable. Why? Because power is rooted in inevitability. When your actions appear inevitable, they cannot be resisted. When you justify them, you imply they could be changed, altered, or reversed. You open the door to negotiation, and every negotiation chips away at your position. Even in private life, the pattern is the same. You say no to a request. They ask why. You explain. Now they have something to argue against, something to dismantle, but say nothing or say only, Because I have decided. And the matter ends where it began, with your authority intact. Machiavelli observed that men respect decisiveness more than fairness. A prince may act unjustly and still be feared, even admired. But a prince who hesitates, who pleads his case as if before a jury, becomes an object of contempt. Look at Caesar. When he crossed the Rubicon, he offered no speeches to justify it, no proclamation seeking approval. He acted, and the act itself became the justification. Rome followed because Rome had no other choice. That is the secret. Do not waste words defending your actions. Make your actions undeniable. Yes, they may call you arrogant. Yes, they may grumble in your absence. But grumbling is harmless. Rebellion is born from seeing you bend. Justification is bending. It is an admission that you owe them a reason. But you owe nothing, except the consequences you choose to deliver. When you explain, you are really speaking to yourself, trying to soothe the discomfort of being misunderstood, trying to prove, if only to your own mind, that you were right. That impulse is fatal. It is the impulse of a man who still believes his survival depends on the approval of others. Kill that belief. A ruler's worth is not measured by how well he is understood, but by how effectively he commands. A strategist's victory is not in being liked, but in being obeyed. So the next time they press for your reasons, pause. Feel the pull to justify, and deny it. Look them in the eye and say, "It was necessary." Then turn away before they can speak. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, they will stop believing they have the right to ask. Power is not always about strength. Sometimes it is about uncertainty. When no one knows your true intentions, they tread carefully. When they cannot predict your next move, they hesitate. And hesitation, in the game of power, is fatal. Mystery is not an accident. It is a weapon, a deliberate veil you draw over your mind. Ask yourself, what do you reveal when you explain yourself fully? You reveal your reasoning, your values, your fears, and with them, the boundaries of your ambition. Once they see the map of your mind, they know exactly where to attack and where to avoid. A man without mystery is like a fortress without walls. No matter how strong he appears, he will eventually be overrun. Machiavelli warned, if your enemies can anticipate your moves, they can counter them before you act. But if they are unsure, if they cannot read your mind, they will waste their strength guarding against possibilities that may never come. Consider the rise of Genghis Khan. His armies appeared suddenly in places they should not have reached. His envoys spoke little, promising nothing. Allies and enemies alike could not predict whether he would offer trade, demand tribute, or burn a city to the ground. That uncertainty broke more cities than his catapults ever did. Now think of your own life. At work, if they can predict exactly how you will react, they can corner you. If they know exactly what you value, they can tempt you. If they know exactly what angers you, they can provoke you. But if they can't, they avoid pushing too far. They step lightly. They give you space, not out of respect, but out of fear of misjudgment. This is the quiet advantage of mystery. It multiplies their caution while preserving your freedom. Do not mistake mystery for passivity. Mystery requires active control of information. You must give just enough to keep them guessing, never enough to confirm their suspicions. Sometimes you answer questions with questions. Sometimes you give a reason so small it cannot possibly be the whole truth. Sometimes you let them think they have uncovered your secret, when in fact you fed them a false trail. The court of Queen Elizabeth, I understood this well. She revealed her mind to no one completely, not even her closest advisors. She promised marriage to kings and princes for decades, then withdrew at the last moment. Her enemies wasted years preparing for alliances that never came. Her mystery kept her throne secure longer than any treaty could have. And here is the paradox. The less you reveal, the more they talk about you. The less they know, the more they speculate. And speculation turns into myth. Myth is more powerful than truth. Truth can be challenged. Myth cannot be proven or disproven. It lives in the shadows of imagination. When they fear what you might do, they restrain themselves. When they fear what you might be capable of, they obey without being told. That is the highest form of power, not in forcing obedience, but in making disobedience unthinkable. So guard your mind as you would guard a fortress. Let no one see all the walls at once. Let no one chart the hidden passages. Because the moment they think they understand you, you have already surrendered your advantage, and the day you are predictable is the day they begin to plan your downfall. Control is not always taken by force. It is often given without them realizing. You do not push, you pull. You plant thoughts so subtly that they believe they were their own. The best chains are invisible. The best cage is one the prisoner defends. Ask yourself, how many times have you acted, believing it was your choice, when it was planted by another? And if you could do that to them, would you? Remember, people resist commands, but they embrace illusions. The moment they think they understand you, you have already shaped them. Leave no trail. Speak in half-truths. Let them walk willingly into the design you have built for them. If this has opened a door in your mind, step through it. Leave a comment below, so your words might spark another's thoughts. Subscribe, not for my sake, but for your arsenal. Share this video, not for numbers, but to see who among your circle begins to change. Influence is not given, it is taken, quietly.